What up, Shredders?
Shredder? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be talking about snowboarder slang, snowboarder lingo. If you're a beginner or an advanced rider, you know that there is a whole world and universe of snowboard vocabulary, and we have our own beautiful language that I am very happy and proud to be able to speak. I can speak English and snowboarder. Those are my two languages, so I will be sharing what a lot of these words mean and defining them, and if you know what all of these words mean, I will also be ranking them. I'm going to be ranking them based on how creative I think they are, how original, whether or not I think they're cool or not. It's kind of just going to change how I rank them. Should these words stay in snowboarding? Should they go? Should we evolve past them? We're going to be talking lingo and words, and yeah, let's get into the video. Shout out Jet Drip for the video suggestion. Brilliant, genius commenter was like, dude, do a snowboarder lingo / slang tier list. All right, starting things off with core. The first ever yapping video I made was about the word core. Core is a great word. It's a fun word. It really just means being cool, but with extra steps. Some people think core means hardcore, and it depends on the context. Sometimes it does mean hardcore, but I don't like the word hardcore for core that much, because hardcore just means you're consistent, that you're there a lot, that you're really involved. You know, you could argue that Shaun White is hardcore. You can't even argue. Shaun White is a hardcore snowboarder. Jonathan Buckhouse is a hardcore snowboarder. These are two people that historically have not been accepted by core snowboarding. Are they hardcore? Yes. Are they core? Not necessarily. I think core more means foundation, like the Earth's core, what built snowboarding to what it is today. If you look back at the center of the history of what built it up, that's the core of snowboarding. And I explain all of that. I made a whole video about it that I actually think is pretty good and well researched in what core snowboarding is. So check that out if the term core still confuses you, because if you've never snowboarded before and you hear core, it is kind of a weird term. You should always strive to be a core snowboarder, but it's kind of cringe if you call yourself a core snowboarder. Core snowboarders would never call themselves a core snowboarder despite them being pretty damn core. Core gets A tier. Hesh. I talk about Heshness a lot, specifically with fashion, but Heshness is more of a lifestyle. What's more core than being core? Being Hesh. What is Hesh? Hesh is dirty. Hesh is gritty. Hesh is not brushing your teeth. Hesh is duct tape on your boots. Hesh is rusty handrails. Hesh is sneaking onto the ski area for free. Hesh is waiting at the parking lot in the afternoon for skiers to leave and begging them for their lift ticket to get onto the resort. Hesh is hiking the park for free. Hesh is doing snowboarding without spending too much money and really investing yourself into that gritty, dirty lifestyle. Hesh is living in a van, but not a stupid, fancy pants Sprinter, Mercedes, Trustafarian van, but a van that's about to break down. Maybe you're living in a car. That's Hesh. Hesh is really about it. Hesh is if the Trailer Park Boys snowboarded, and Hesh is gonna get S tier. Strive to be Hesh. If you are Hesh, you're probably core. And there is a difference between Hesh and core, but that they do go hand in hand. And one of you guys even commented saying I should do a video explaining the difference between Hesh and core and the intersectionality of the two words. So if you guys are interested in that, I can definitely do that for you guys. All right, next up we have front side and backside. A lot of you guys struggle with front side and backside. Like, you guys constantly mess up the name of tricks. That's fine. I don't know if snowboarders are stupid or something and will never get the difference between front side and backside, because it is different on rails and jumps to rotation, but it's really not that hard. I don't know if it was the fact that I've been like playing a brain decaying amount of Skate 3 in 8th grade. Every time I did a trick, I would look down the bottom left corner and I understood front side and backside pretty quickly. You know, so that's one issue with the word, is like most snowboarders have no idea what this means. They always get it wrong. And then my other issue, my main issue, is it's just kind of boring, dude. I think that Brad Pitt came up with a better term for this word in the movie Fight Club.
Now a question of etiquette. As I pass, do I give you the ass or the crotch?
Ass or crotch? And he gives the stewardess the crotch, obviously. So crotch, of course, would mean front side. Back side would mean ass. This is what I propose. And you know, this is not law. I'm just brainstorming, getting the ball rolling. Okay, we can still keep front side and back side, but what if you do a really gross front side trick? You do a front 3 and it looked pretty bad. Your homies could be like, dude, that was a crotch 3. You do a back 3, it looks pretty bad. Instead of saying that was a bad back 3, you could say that was an ass 3. Now, what if you do a really good frontside trick? What if you do a really sexy looking front 540 with an indie grab and it's poked and boned and it looks really dope? Then you could say, yo, that was a tits 5.
Oh, that was so tits!
You know, because tits is also on the front side of a human, and it sounds cooler than front, and it sounds sexier than crotch. Just a suggestion, you know, it's not law, obviously, yet, but getting the ball rolling. Like, Brad Pitt, I think, was onto something there. Front side and back side, pretty boring. Got to give it D tier, which leads us to jib. So, I was doom scrolling on the gram the other day, and I came across you know, a video, let me see if I can find it, by this Instagram personer, and it was called Explaining Ski Slang Part 3. So it's like, oh, it was a decent video. He got all the words correctly. I'm like, this is oddly similar to the video that I'm planning. Let's see what he had to say in Part 1 and 2. Part 1, you know, was fine, but let's watch Part 2.
What's a jib?
Yeah, a jib or a hit is like doing like a little jump off the side of a run or a lip.
What is opera?
She asked a very simple question. What is a jib? He defined a jib as a side hit. Side hits aren't jib. To this Instagram personer, this Instagram couple, I wouldn't find fault to make a huge rant about your, you know, cringy ski Jackson influencer van life lifestyle. I'm fine if you post cringy stuff on the internet. I post cringy stuff on the internet. You know, I'm fine if you pimp out the great state of Wyoming and pimp out Jackson. Whatever. I'm powerless against influencers, but what I'm not powerless against is lies and disinformation amongst the most sacred word in snowboarding, and that word is jib. It is a beautiful word, and you cannot butcher it the way that you did. It's one thing to not know what jib means. It's another thing to act like you know what jib means and lie about it on the internet and post it to thousands of people, because jibbing is our most sacred word. So I prepared a little presentation for you guys. Hello guys, welcome to my presentation. This is for all of you guys, but specifically for Jay and Nina, because I believe in redemption. Maybe you can watch this slideshow and understand what jibbing is and actually become a jibber, because based on your fit, based on what you post on the gram, you guys clearly don't jib. So maybe there is a redemption arc where you guys become the sickest Jackson jibbers alive after you know, see this presentation. Jib definition: anytime your snowboard interacts with any material besides snow or air.
So obviously this guy hitting a handrail, that's a jib. If you're going on a box in the terrain park, that's a jib. Pretty much any feature besides a jump in the terrain park is a jib.
So are side hits jibs? No, side hits are not jibs. And the reason is because when you go off a side hit, you are only interacting with snow. But what if you jump off a side hit and tap a tree? I would call this a tree tap or a tree bonk, but those two terms are classified in the bin of jibbing because your snowboard is interacting with the material that's not snow. Jib is both a noun and a verb.
Here we have a bunch of rails, very common rails that you will see in the park. These are all jibs. And here you have a snowboarder hitting a jib. He is in the act of the jib. So jib, both noun and verb. Jibbing is only a verb. This snowboarder is jibbing right now. And jibber is a noun.
So here we have a jibber jibbing a jib. Venn diagrams. Call me Kamala Harris the way I like Venn diagrams.
I love Venn diagrams.
Obviously, rails are jibs. Here we have a rock jib. Here we have a snowboarder hitting a tree jib or a log jib. You know, he's interacting with a log and not snow, so it is a jib. Then we have side hits, which I explained are not jibs. This snowboarder doing a backflip, not a jib. Dope-ass trick, but not a jib. And then we have kind of this gray area. This log is covered in feet and feet of snow. So technically this snowboarder is only interacting with snow, but because he is balancing, it is similar to jibbing, and it depends either way. I would classify this as a jib, but technically it does not fit the definition. So yes, jibbing is a great word. It is a sacred word. It is one of the words that snowboarders actually came up with and that we did not take from skating. Skaters don't say jib. Jibbing is something snowboarders say, and it stood the test of time. This is a very early on word in snowboarding that has lasted, and it will continue to last because it is the best and most sacred word in snowboarding. The worst and lamest thing 686 ever did, and they have done a lot of lame things, is remove the word jib from their title. They used to be Jib 686. That was when they were cool. They removed jib, and ever since they removed jib, they weren't a jibbing snowboard brand. They just became another outerwear apparel company. 686 removing jib, hella lame. Jib is the most epic word in snowboarding, the most sacred word in snowboarding. Jib is the best word in this list. It's going to get S tier. Next up, we have the word grind. Saying grind grinds my gears, and I get it. If you're a skater snowboarding for the first time or the second or third time, you hit a little 50 on a rail or a box, you're like, dude, I did a 50-50 grind, because that's what it's called in skating. But the reason it's called that in skating is because that is metal on metal or metal on concrete, and that grinds the trucks, it grinds the rail down, it grinds the concrete down. Jibbing is more delicate. Jibbing makes a different noise than a grind. It's a beautiful noise. It's like jazzful and kind of has a rhythm to it, while grinding is more aggressive and like heavy metal, and jib is more rhythmful. It's more of like a rap sounding noise. Don't say grind in snowboarding because that is a purely skating term. The only time it's acceptable to say grind in snowboarding is when you are getting a bass grind on your board, or maybe if you're hitting a concrete hubba that is really chunky, that does grind down the base of your board, so you can call it a grind then. Or maybe if you're going across pavement in the street, that does physically grind down the base of your board. So those are the exceptions. If your board is getting ground down, you could call it a grind. But when you're hitting a box or a rail in the park, nothing's being ground down. It's a smooth word. You are jibbing, not grinding when you are snowboarding. So grind, it's a word that we got to get rid of in snowboarding. In my opinion, I don't like hearing it. Grind gets F tier. Steeze, a very common word in snowboarding. Steeze means style and ease, or at least that's what I hear the most when people talk about steeze. Steeze is just something that you recognize. When you see somebody that does a trick that looks effortlessly and it looks clean, you're like, yo, that was steezy. It's just a copy of a skating word, but it's still a great word. But because it is a copy of a skating word and it's not the best word in skating, I'm only going to give it C tier. My bad, guys. Fact check. Steeze, according to Google AI, originated in snowboarding before it was widely used in skating. So for this, I would put Steeze higher up in the tier list. I just heard it in skating first, probably because I skated first. So, my bad, guys. I'm an idiot, but then I did a deeper dive. Steeze originates in black hip hop and slang. So, I mean, like most cool words, black people came up with it first. Which leads us to Stee. Dude, are we that lazy that like we can't add the Z-E at the end? Like saying Stee, it's like you're trying too hard to be cool. I want to ban the word Stee. Just say Steeze. It reminds me of like Kevin.
Think, why waste time? Say lot word when few word do trick.
Dude, just add the Z-E at the end. Like you're trying too hard. Stee gets F tier. Tweaked, boned, and poked. I prepared another slide about tweaked, boned, and poked. Let's go check it out. Here we have a snowboarder doing a straight air indie grab. This is not tweaked, not boned, and not poked. Here you have a snowboarder doing a backside shifty. This is tweaked, but not boned and not poked. What is boned and poked? Well, boned is a type of tweak, and so is poke. Boning and poking are both versions of tweaking. So this snowboarder is tweaked and boned, but not poked. Boning means anytime your nose is below the tail of your snowboard. So this is a boned tuck knee over a tree. And then here, This snowboarder is doing the same trick, but he is also poking. And the reason he is poking is because his left foot down here is pointing out to the right of him, while his back foot is going in the opposite direction. So this is tweaked, boned, and poked. When you are snowboarding, you should try to be boned and poked. That's the sickest thing. Or at least boned. The opposite of being boned is the rocket air, and the rocket air is a disgusting trick. So be boned, and if you can, be poked. Back to the tier list. As I discussed, it is most important to be boned. So boned gets B tier. B for boned, that makes sense. And then poke, not as important as being boned, slightly below. And then tweaked is the most broad of these. It's pretty easy to be tweaked. It's not that specific enough. You know, when somebody says they tweaked their air, you really can't tell what's going on that much. But when they say they're boned or poked, you get a little bit more context. When you are hitting a straight air, I think it's important to be both boned and poked. This is what I call a poking boner. Poking boner has not reached mainstream yet. That's just what I call it when I do that stunt. And you know, it gets laughs from my buddies. My buddies are also pretty immature, but you know, maybe poking boner will catch on. Speaking of genitalia, we have donkey dick. A donkey dick is usually a down rail to a short little kink out of it. I'll put a picture. It's just easier putting a picture. Dude, I love donkey dicks. That is a crazy thing for me to say on the internet and to post publicly, but dude, donkey dicks are great features. Nothing's more fun than doing just a little backboard, and then when you're finally at that donkey, it just naturally pops you out. And it's a funny word. The first time I saw that feature and heard somebody call it a donkey dick, I'm like, that just makes sense. It's a good word. Gotta give it A tier. I do have beef with flat donkeys. If you're gonna be a donkey dick in the park, you know, I guess I'm addressing rails right now, or I guess more the park crew. If you're gonna be a donkey dick in the park, it needs to be a down donkey, because for one, they're more fun. Flat to donkeys are just kind of a lame feature. And the other thing is flat to donkeys don't exist, so they're not a real feature that you will come across in the streets. It's more common for you to come across a down donkey in the streets than just a regular down rail in the street. All right, next we have the word Zeach. Zeach is anytime you are not perpendicular to the rail or not exactly parallel. So Zeach derives from this old head snowboarder. So it's derived from Zach Leach, and you'll see, I'll play this part as I yap about it. So he is really good at like doing a nose press or a tail press and kind of like crook it out and, you know, go to the side of the rail. And I think that looks cool. I think it's fine to Zeach if you're pressed like that trick. But when you're doing a board slide and you're not pressed, dude, it's low-key ugly. Like, we strive not to do this as snowboarders. And, you know, the year is 2025. Zeach is seen as a negative thing. And even, dude, and this is going to piss off the old heads, but even when Zach Leach is doing, like, a front board and he Zeaches it, you know, it's kind of gross. It's definitely most cool when you are doing a press and you Zeach it like that. That I think is acceptable and cool. But, you know, that one's cool. But if you're doing a board slide and you Zeach it, you know, not cool. It definitely needs to be press for the Zeach to be valid. People just don't say it anymore. You know, like, this snowboarder, he's lost a lot of relevance in the modern day. You don't hear, you know, young kids saying Zeach. It's just kind of a dying word. It's seen as negative, and most people just say, dude, you didn't get to 90. It's rare that I see Zeach. And frankly, dude, unpopular opinion, this is going to piss you old heads off. I'm fine if we move past it. It's part of snowboard history at this point. It's not that common for people to say Zeach anymore. A word that I hear more than Zeach is over Zeach. I hear over Zeach way more than Zeach, and that's because over Zeach is seen as a positive. It's a good thing to be over Zeach. That's when you're doing a board slide and past 90 degrees. It looks way sicker than being Zeached. It's seen as a positive, so it is a positive thing
for Zach Leach's legacy.
I'm just predicting that over Zeach and Zeach are just going to fade away. I could be wrong, but I just think different words will replace these. Next we have tomahawk. This is a fantastic word. The first time I saw somebody tomahawk and somebody was like, yo, he tomahawked, I'm like, that is a brilliant word. It makes so much sense. It looks just like a tomahawk being thrown. Tomahawk gets top of A tier. Another great word that starts with a T, wow, what a lame transition, is taco. Let's play a clip of Craig McMorris explaining what a taco is on the spot, because frankly, he'll do it better than I do.
Taco, that's a proper term. So you see a rail, right? What people snowboard on. And what happens is if you fall on the rail and your board ends up on one side and your chest and head end up on the other, you taco the rail. So it's literal. Like the Mexican delicacy on a rail.
The Mexican delicacy on a rail. That's what a taco is. This is also just like tomahawk. The first time you see someone taco, before you know it's called a taco, and you hear someone in the park being like, damn dude, he tacoed that, you're like, that's funny. Taco, great word. Great job, Craig McMorris. Tail and nose grab. Dude, out of all of the grabs, this is the most boring one. It's just lame. They're good looking grabs. I just think the name of it, pretty boring. Gotta give it F tier. You know, it's better than Steeze and better than grind. Grind's the worst word on this list. A tail grab is way cooler than a nose grab. I think nose grabs are kind of gross because you're rocketed. But, you know, I think we could come up with better words for tail and nose grab. Now we have all the common middle grabs. Indie, melon, mute, and stalefish. You know, even though these words are just copies from skating, they just sound way cooler than tail and nose. So, gonna give all the common middle grabs C tier. Tindy, this is the most, you know, probably common word that you come across in the no grab zone grabs. So a tindy is when you grab indie, but like right here. So this would be a tindy. It's a pretty gross looking trick. Don't grab in the no grab zone unless it's a method. That's the exception. Even though tindy is a gross word, I think it's decently clever. I'll give it B tier. Gorilla grab. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion. I don't know, but this is just my opinion. Gorilla grab is a sick trick, especially if you stiffy it out and add a spin to it, like a front three stiffy gorilla grab. Fun trick, party trick. I think it's actually really cool looking, and you don't see it too much, and it looks like a gorilla. When you grab right here, you know, you look like a gorilla. So, gorilla grab, gotta give A tier. Dude, stiffy front three gorilla, so freaking tits. Alright, spreading the curtains. This is a really ugly, gross looking trick, but with a pretty funny name. Spreading the curtains is when you go under your legs and grab the heel side of your board, and you know, usually you open up your legs, kind of, you know, provocative, kind of vulgar, but it is funny. I would give it A tier because it's funny, but, you know, spreading the curtains is kind of similar to gorilla grab, but a way grosser looking trick, so gotta give it B tier. Next up, we have the word Jerry. Jerry has just lost a lot of its potency. It's too mainstream, it's too common. When there are accounts with 2.1 million followers dedicated to just the word Jerry, it loses its potency. The problem with Jerry is there are other Jerrys calling Jerry's Jerry. It's too played out. You know, if people are selling merchandise about being a Jerry, it's just not that cool of a word anymore. So Jerry, gotta give D. Actually, nah, Jerry gets F tier, dude. Let's move past Jerry. A far better word is gaper. Gaper, of course, is that gap between your goggles and your helmet. Usually symbolizes that you don't know what you're doing and that you're a bad snowboarder or skier. Why is gaper better than Jerry? because of Ethan Morgan. Ethan Morgan's car is called the Gaper 69. He did not call his car the Jerry 69. And Ethan Morgan is the coolest snowboarder alive right now. He's actually making snowboard movies that are different and creative. And The Ride is the best snowboard movie to probably ever come out ever. And it just came out a couple weeks ago. Kind of crushing on Ethan Morgan right now, and he calls his car the Gaper 69, and the Gaper 69 edits where he lights that shit on fire and jibs it. So dope. So because of Ethan Morgan, Gaper is in, Jerry out. 180, 360, 540, all the way up to like 2160 now or something ridiculous. And then you have all the in-between tricks, 270, 450. Too many goddamn numbers, and they're weird ass numbers, hard to do the math on them. I don't think anyone was expecting it to go up to 2160, and when I'm snowboarding, I don't want to be doing too much math. 180, 360, and 5, 1, 3, 5, it's ingrained in the brain enough where I can't give it F tier, but anything past 1080 is just ridiculous. We should move past the number system. If we are going to number the rotations, why don't we just call it 361, at this point? I don't want to bring out a calculator to understand how many rotations is going on. That concludes this video. Dude, I only scraped the surface of these words. There are so many snowboard slang lingo words that I didn't even touch upon. I probably said double the amount of words that you guys probably don't know if you're a beginner just to describe these words that I talked about. So if you want a part 2, let me know. I could probably come up with 90 different words to continue on to this tier list. And yeah, I've liked yapping about these words. Let me know if you did. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. What's your favorite word in snowboarding? Should some of these words go? What words, if we do a part 2, should I look up next and do next? Thank you guys for watching this video. I love you all. Thank you for all the comments and support you guys are giving me. Love you. Bye.